And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here, live and on demand on BlazeTV radio and podcast. Steve Deace here alongside and improving Todd Erzin. You're definitely better than you were yesterday. You look and sound better for sure.
Yeah?
You do, for sure.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Deteriorating Aaron McIntyre, who looks and sounds worse than he did yesterday. Yes.
But we're all gamers, man.
We are.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, we persisted. I mean, questionable means we're playing. So here we are. You know, I'm doing great. I mean, I'm completely over the sinus infection and everything that I had going on. So I'm doing well. I got over that. You know, very anxious as we get down to the last, 37 days until release of Nefarious.
You don't have like a Christmas calendar like thing where you're like counting down the days?
Brother, it's Iowa caucus day every day right now. Okay. I mean, it's just, this is an absolute mad scramble. When this is over, I am just going to be like, what do I do with all my time? You know, because it's not like I didn't work long days before this, but don't get me wrong. I'm enjoying every minute of it. I mean, this has been a ton of fun. In fact, I'm going to share something with you guys at the bottom of this hour from a pastor who oversees a national network of ministers who watched the movie last night. And I think you guys are going to want to hear his review for sure. So we'll talk about that at the bottom of the hour. But it's just, this is a lot of excitement right now. And in a way, I'm almost doing the show to get back into normalcy, back into my normal pattern. You know, it's good to come in and do the show. Otherwise, I would just get consumed by this constantly. And so, you know, this has been the thing that in the past I've had to negotiate with family and everything else to make sure it didn't consume me. Now that the kids are older and growing up and moving out and all that kind of stuff, I've got more time. So it was, you know, the 7-year wait for the movie to get to the point of getting released was, again, the Lord knows best. It was wise. You know, I have an opening now that my kids are older and they have boyfriends and girlfriends and husbands. You know, they don't want to spend as much time with the old man as they wanted to 5, 6, 7 years ago. You know, trying to incorporate this 5, 6, 7 years ago into all of that, I don't know how that would have been possible. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But now I have some of that time. But then the good thing is to remind me, hey, you know, stay on mission, come in, do the show. So now the show is actually what anchors me to make sure I don't get overwhelmed in my schedule. When before, you know, in the other previous iteration of my life, I wanted to make sure the show didn't consume the other parts of my life. But I mean, no, this has been a ton of fun. I cannot wait until Saturday. I mean, I'm out of my skis here because it's the first time that we are going to show this movie to the general public. And I can't wait to get that reaction on Saturday.
How was this 200 or so, I think you said something?
Yep.
How is it called? I mean, you're putting it out to certain audiences. I mean, is it church audiences? It's not like spammed over a random radio station somewhere.
No.
How did you pick it?
No, we will be doing those, by the way. I'll give you details on those later this month. We are going to do, I think I heard yesterday, we might do 15 of these around the country in early April leading up to release. And we'll partner, it looks like, with a couple of different media outlets to promote those. Maybe even one of them will be the Blaze around the country. This one, this very first one, I have to be careful how I answer. It was put together very strategically, and then we have some seats left over is maybe the best way I would put it. Okay? So much of the audience are going to be ministry leaders, activists. Okay,
yeah,
that'll be much
sense.
of the audience. And then we had some seats left over. And so that's why yesterday was the day that I mentioned. And I think we're going to be well over 200 for this screening. We still have some available seats, I'm told. There's still a few. If you want to come to suburban Detroit, Troy, Michigan, very nice theater that we're going to be holding this screening on Saturday afternoon. I will be doing a Q&A. We're going to be recording it. All right, so we're going to do a recorded Q&A after the film. So I'm gonna be there myself, so we'll have a recorded Q&A afterwards. We even sent some books up there. We're gonna do a book signing for Rise of the Fourth Reich. Oh yeah.
Yeah, wow, we're getting into heady times with spoiler warnings here.
And we are going to do the red carpet premiere for Nefarious will be on April the 4th in Dallas, or the DFW. April the 4th in the DFW. It's going to be at the Plano West Cinemark, which is also where the red carpet event for The Passion was nearly 20 years ago. And for similar reasons, and some of the same people that made that movie happen made this one happen. So that's not by accident, okay? That's where the red carpet premiere is going to be, and April 4th. So booked our airline tickets for that last night.
Just perfect symmetry. I mean,
that's the day before our wedding anniversary, by the way. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, the devil has always been jealous of the Lord and seeking to take what's his. So the Passion goes first. Here comes Nefarious, and he wants a piece of the same place. It's marching along all according to plan.
Indeed. We'll talk more about that here in a few minutes, though, because we've still got a collapsing civilization to cover here for the next couple of hours. So we'll be all over that.
There's that.
All right. So we will play Buy, Sell, or Hold next hour. Speaking of that woe and lamentation I just reminded us of, the prophet of such will be joining us at the final furlong of the program, our colleague and good friend Daniel Horowitz. But before we begin with those very things, let us begin with the thing we always begin with, Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away brought to you by Panic. The entire system yesterday went into damage control mode after Fox News' Tucker Carlson released that previously unseen surveillance footage from the Capitol from January 6th, 2021, and subsequently blew up several official narratives about that day. Here's a brief montage of how the mainstream media responded. In the Senate, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer took to the Senate floor to bash Carlson before later calling on Fox News to censor him.
Rupert Murdoch, who has admitted they were lies and said he regretted it, has a special obligation to stop Tucker Carlson from going on tonight now that he's seen how he is perverted and slimed the truth.
But nowhere was the panic of the system felt more tangibly than the reaction from several Republicans. Welcome once more to the Uniparty. We'll start with Tom Tillis of North Carolina.
I think it's bull.
Senator Mitt Romney of Utah called what Carlson did, quote, dangerous. And here's the crusty old turtle, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who's apparently at the point in his career where he just enjoys dropping trow and whizzing on his base's face.
My concern is how it was depicted, which is a different issue. Clearly, the chief of the Capitol Police, in my view, correctly describes what most of us witnessed firsthand on January 6th. So that's my reaction to it. It was a mistake, in my view, for Fox News to depict this in a way that's completely at variance with what our chief law enforcement official here at the Capitol thinks.
Moving on, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was back in his home state to give his State of the State address.
Florida is the fastest growing state in the nation. We rank #1 for net in-migration. We rank #1 in the nation for new business formations. We are #1 in economic growth amongst large states. Florida has more people employed today than before the pandemic. Our unemployment rate is one of the lowest on record, and it is significantly lower than the national average. And of course, as many of you know in this room, the last 2 years, we've seen the largest budget surpluses in the history of the state of Florida.
The intel community now believes pro-Ukrainian groups are responsible for the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines last year. That's according to the New York Times. The intel community doesn't actually define what pro-Ukrainian group means. So it's just, pro-Ukrainian group. I just can't put my finger on it. You may remember UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and how he's a bona fide transphobe after telling Piers Morgan the definition of a woman is an adult human female. Well, I bring you glad tidings of great joy. He's now a xenophobe, too.
We will detain those who come here illegally
and then remove them in weeks, either to their own country if it is safe to do so, or to a safe third country like Rwanda. And once you are removed, you will be banned, as you are in America and Australia, from ever re-entering our country.
Checking in on Joe Biden.
And I had these terrible headaches, was diagnosed with having anyway, they had to take the top of my head off a couple times, see if I had a brain.
Jill Biden, your thoughts?
Nikki Haley, one of the Republican candidates, is calling for mental competency tests for those politicians over the age of 75. What do you think about that?
Ridiculous.
Would your husband ever take one of those?
I mean, we would never even discuss something like that.
Learning Chinese today. Today's phrase is, Joe Biden does like to discuss chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry pudding.
乔拜登确实喜欢讨论巧克力、香草和草莓布丁。
Millstone update. This recently aired on PBS.
Basically, at about 24 months, here's where she started grabbing the tutus and the dresses.
By 3.5, Kieran had transitioned to a girl. Today, she's 9 years old, a third grader, and an athlete. That's why the Clausens are celebrating Governor Holcomb's decision to veto a bill that would have banned Kieran and other transgender girls from playing on girls' sports teams at school.
And finally, this from the Babylon Bee. Everything is bad and the world is ending and you shouldn't have kids, says Party of Progress. And that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's Montage, brought to you by our friends at Bonner Private Wines. You've been listening to me for years now talk about these amazing extreme altitude red wines, families that are on their second century of running vineyards the old-fashioned, not the new factory way. Some of the best tasting Malbec grapes, 9,000 feet of altitude deep in the Andes Mountains. And today we're going to expand the offer. Yes, you'll still get half off the wine and half off the shipping, which is a key when we're talking about imported wines to get that discount. But now they will also add an exclusive bonus bottle of small batch limited production wine from their exclusive wine cellar. So this deal now applies to 4 bottles instead of 3 when you go to bonnerprivatewines.com/Steve, BONNER, for bonnerprivatewines.com/Steve. Once again, bonnerprivatewines.com/Steve. All right, let's get to the montage very quickly. I labeled Rishi Sunak Adam Kinzinger, that the UK had gone from Mitt Romney with Boris Johnson to Lisa Murkowski with that chick whose name I can't remember, who was she prime minister for literally 20 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. To Rishi Sunak, who even has like Adam Kinzinger's build and hair. Okay. I think I have to say that while I don't believe he's the second coming of Milton Friedman, he certainly is not Adam Kinzinger. Is that fair? Because Adam Kinzinger is not going to get what's a citizen and what's a woman right. He's not even going to get those right. Was I unfair to him?
Well, he just went full Donald Trump right out of the gate. This is like, remember? Donald Trump's president, what's the first thing he does? And instantly they started calling him you're a Muslim hater.
Right.
This is, I mean, there's no daylight between what he's doing here and what Donald Trump did. And this speaks to, like, are you ever more happy, as people who don't like to be wrong for various reasons, are you ever more happy to be wrong these days? Because we're always right about the worst things ever. It's nice when a dude steps up and said, yeah, we've got a culture and we're not going to let you burn it down.
After you left yesterday, Kim Reynolds, our governor's chief of staff, was here for a meeting and came in to meet me. And our good friend Bob Vanderplaat said, now, I saw Steve do something with Kim Reynolds I have never seen before. Change his mind about a politician for the good. Steve and I have been friends for many years. I've never seen that. And I said, well, in my defense, if I just assume I'm going to be constantly disappointed, my record on that has actually turned out to be pretty good, unfortunately. Right?
Yeah.
But I mentioned to her just what you said. I have never been more happy to be wrong about something in my entire life. And I'm more wrong about her than any politician I've ever encountered. Now, he's got a ways to go to get where she's at here. Okay. But at the very least, I think we have to say, just on these 2 things alone, this is an upgrade over what they had. When it seemed as if they were just, cascading at this
It's
point.
the same reason we tip our hat to Russell Brand or to Bill Maher. It's like truth.
Right.
Wherever it leads, let's go.
I mean, I know some of you in my inbox, these are the basic questions. I know we know this. You've got too much time. You've got too many other things to do today than to write us that email. Save it for something better, okay? A better use of your time. We understand the expectations here are sub-friggin-terranean. We understand this, all right?
We don't know what a woman is these days, folks.
But we also have to acknowledge that that's the reality in which we live at the exact same time. Like, I didn't think he was going to get these questions right. I didn't. So, just, all right, like to keep ourselves in check as we hold everybody else in check. So and we don't want to do, what the corporate media does. Here's the corrections on page 37D in agate at the bottom of the fold, right? Okay. If we think maybe we got something wrong, let's just address it here from the outset and keep it real. Fair?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the rest of the montage. I don't know what would be more hilarious. If Biden blew up a pipeline that our European allies really were relying upon, or if Zelensky sabotaged a pipeline that sabotaged a pipeline that his pimps heavily relied upon. I don't know which of those outcomes would be more hilarious. I just know that they both would be hilarious. Do you have a vote on that?
What?
I busted out Reichstag yesterday. Everything is a false flag.
Yeah,
everything's a false flag almost now. Okay, everything's a false flag. We literally destroyed our allies. If this report is true, and the our here is Ukraine, is the antecedent, okay? I've come to the conclusion I'm not an American. I'm from a country called America. U.S. interests are not necessarily my interest. Sometimes they are. A lot of times they're not. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So we're all, we're in the era of pronouns. Let me make sure I am defining for you here who the our is. I'm speaking as if Ukraine is the antecedent here, not me. Because I just live here now. I just live here. All right. And I live here because it's better. It's still better to live here than anywhere else. But most of the agenda of whatever this thing called the United States, it pursues, frankly, going back to the last year of the Trump administration with COVID, and then the whole 3 years that this is going on, year 3 of this now, I have nothing in common with it, like nothing. So, I mean, this is like I just live here, and I'm a citizen of a country called America. Okay. And sometimes this place called America aligns with America. Most of the time it does not. All right. So, but in this case, the our is Ukraine. The idea of destroying the ability of your allies to heat, on top of the inflation and all, because of all the money they printed and everything else, the constituents of your allies to affordably heat their homes here this entire last winter. I mean, it would just be. It would be on brand for this entire era in which we live right now.
That's what I was searching for. If Ukraine is what we think it is, this is
just
obvious.
Just Griftistan, basically.
This is the obvious thing that they would do. Like what? Your thing about the news coming in, the hardest thing to know is what's even real to comment about.
Right.
This whole thing in Ukraine. There was just something online a couple days ago, and it was from a website I didn't recognize, so I don't really know what to say about it at all. But it was about pictures that Ukraine is using to say to demonstrate the damage that's being done. But then this website showed pictures of undamaged buildings, and that it's all deep fakes. I don't know what's true.
Here's what I know. Here's what I know is true.
The lie
Vladimir
is the point.
Putin is a bad person,
yes.
And Vladimir Zelensky is a crook. I know those two things are true, man. That's all I know. And so I'm not interested in my kids dying in a war between a thug and a dictator. You? That's all we know. Then that's all we know. That is all we know. Okay? I mean, 2 weeks ago, we watched a feeble, dementia-rattled president walk down the streets of Kiev in daylight with bomb sirens going off, and the Secret Service didn't scramble one iota in response to this, okay? I mean, I don't have a clue what the hell is true. I don't know. I just know Vladimir Putin is a fiend, and Vladimir Zelensky is a corruptocrat. That's all I know. And that's good enough for me to know. Not my problem.
I know that his past before being president, the videos were shown of him. He's basically belongs on Libs of TikTok. And now, like with the freaks on Libs of TikTok,
puts on a green shirt and suddenly he's
now they're Rosa
Patton.
Parks and
he's a Cyrillic Patton.
So,
yes.
We're being groomed.
Everything is a groom. Everything is a false flag. Everything is a wag the dog at this point. Just start with that assumption. We're living in a demonic era. That's why when we have an opportunity to assert clear truth and it gets confirmed in broad daylight, we need to hold on to that, grasp it, highlight it all the more. The last 24 hours have demonstrated 3 reoccurring themes that are fundamental to this show, that I have tried to communicate on a reoccurring basis from the moment this show began as a gleam in News Radio 1040 WHO's eye in the summer of 2006. And I've taken these, there's others, but these 3 principles with me everywhere, to Salem, to CRTV, now to the Blaze, everywhere I've gone. And they run counter to what you've heard in a lot of other places from a lot of the other shows you've listened to. But they have never been proven more correct than over the course of the last 24 hours. Both in the unveiling of more real truth of what happened on January 6th and then the reaction to that unveiling. Number 1. We are not a nation of laws, and we never have been. We are a nation of political will, and we always will be. We are here, as we pointed out yesterday, whether it's Darren Beatty at Revolver or our good friend Julie Kelly at American Greatness. You know, there was a small group of us that pushed back on the COVID narrative from day one. This was an even smaller group of them who did this on this story. Like 2, maybe 3. Without them having the will to push back on this narrative, we are not here. Without Tucker Carlson saying, I have the #1 rated show on cable television. So what? Let's roll. Let's do this. We're not here. We're not here without acting on will. It's a contest of will. And you will always have the tyranny, the censorship, the oppression that you will comply with, period. That's why you were given a Second Amendment right after the First, because the implication is we won't comply right away. We're armed. We're not going to comply, just so you know. If you try to violate, before we even get to the rest of these Bill of Rights, you try to violate the very first one, some very fundamental creeds of Americanism, we're armed, just so you know that. We'll shoot. That's the point of it. We have the will. And the means and the way. That's number 1. Number 2, the only party that hates you more than the Democrats are the Republicans. What Aaron said in that montage there, that's the same Mitch McConnell that Matt Bevin challenged in a Senate primary a decade ago. Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. Not with him, except one thing. He doesn't have to lie to you anymore. Him and Elaine have made all their money. They'll walk away a lot wealthier than they came into this with. How many buildings in Kentucky have his name on it? And now he is absolutely getting sadistic pleasure stomping on you in public. Not to mention the intellectual dishonesty of saying, well, this goes against our statement. of the chief of the Capitol Hill Police. Well, I would think, by the way, if you've got video evidence that violates someone's sworn testimony, what does that say about the sworn testimony? It's perjurous. That's what it says.
From personal experience, Steve, I know police never lie. They just never do that.
If you've got sworn testimony that goes against what is surveilled on video, that's called perjury. We don't go with someone's sworn testimony over the objective evidence. We don't do that.
Or do we?
But we do. If it's called Pfizer, we do. If it's called Moderna, we do. If it's called the Board of Elections, we do. These people hate you. You'd have been better off letting Democrats win a lot more elections the last 30 years and gotten rid of these people, gotten them out of power and started over. More people would have been in pain from what the Democrats wanted to do, that it would have turned more people against them. Instead, year after year after year, cycle after cycle after cycle, we cast pearls unto swine, and we voted for these pigs who hate us to save America. And now, when America actually needs to be saved, it didn't need to be saved from Bill Clinton. Just another dope fiend that likes to get laid. Tale as old as time, Foxtrot. No, we used that damn talking point for 30 years, and it wasn't true. It just raised money. But now that it's true, the country needs to be saved. There's your general, Rommel, not Patton, wearing the Iron Cross of the other team. Good luck with that.
It's comforting to see Joni Ernst stand behind him, though.
She's just dreadful on everything. Goodness gracious, she's awful. She's absolutely awful. Here's the third thing. The truth. The truth is its own reward. The truth is its own reward. We don't have to be afraid of the truth. Doesn't mean it will always be comforting. Doesn't mean it will always be comfortable. Doesn't mean it will always be comforting. Doesn't mean it will always be comfortable. You see what I'm doing here?
I do.
Yeah. But it will be fulfilling. The truth is our friend. And the truth is, for a generation, we played the Republicans for access-based politics. The left played the Democrats for outcome or influence-based politics. In exchange, Democrats got a movement. They don't sweat who wins Democrat primaries. They're going to get what they want no matter who does. We got an industry. So we got grifters. Because that's what we asked for. We asked for industry. We didn't ask for a movement. So that's why we have grifters. Every iteration will have grifters. Tea Party got grifters. Christian conservatives got grifters. MAGA's got grifters. If DeSantis becomes the champion of the Republican Party, there'll be DeSantis grifters. We do this over and over again. Because the fact you got Kevin McCarthy to release this footage never happens without threatening him ever becoming speaker in the first place. Chip and all those people, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, they threatened him with leverage. Politics is not a game of access. It is if you are trying to line your pockets. It is if you are not Alexander Hamilton, but the guy who shot him. Politics exists to line my pockets. But if you want outcomes, you want a movement, it's about leverage. Never forget that. Leverage, not access. You know, when you are running a business, particularly a small business, man, human resource issues can be a killer. Because you're kind of in a no man's land. You don't necessarily have the money yet. You're growing that business. The average human resource director salary can be upwards of 70, 80 grand a year, plus bennies. So yeah, you may not necessarily have the wherewithal right now to afford such a person, and yet a lot of things to manage when it comes to the people that you are employing. That's why you want to go to our people at Bambee. They can bridge that gap for you. With Bambee, you'll get your own access to your own dedicated HR manager starting at just $99 per month. That's it, $99 per month to get you started. And it's month to month as well. So they're not going to lock you into a long-term contract. Maybe you're thinking, you know what, I've got a new deal, a new contract hitting in about 6 months, and I'm going to be able to do this in-house. So I just need this for right now. They've got you. Okay. Maybe you're a seasonal business. Some of the season, some of the year, you just have you and family members. You're not worried, but there are peak seasons where you hire outside of your own personal nexus and you need help. They're there for you too. They make it as convenient as absolutely possible. All right. So go to Bambee.com, BAMBEE, just BAM and B. BAM and B. That's it. Bambee.com right now. Type in Steve Deace under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show and help you too. Bambee, BAMBEE, Bambee.com. Type in Steve Deace under podcast. It'll help both the show and you. Bambee.com. Type in Steve Deace under podcast.
In lieu of that, Steve, how do you handle your annoying employees?
Are we sure we want to have that conversation on the air?
There's a dumpster out back.
Yes. Wrecked him, barely knew him, folks. Who wants to sit in this spot next week?
We
Yes.
have a noose on our desk.
Yes, indeed. And by the way, I can't remember the name of the gentleman. You got to love the listeners of this show. A guy emailed us. Man, I wish I could remember his name. I'm sorry. You know what? Let me search my email right now for halter and see if it comes up. Okay. It didn't.
Oh, is this the noose guy?
Yeah, the noose guy. All right.
Yeah, he made a much better noose than I did.
Yes.
I didn't have enough rope, so I had to fake it.
You know what's funny is I've gotten so many. I searched halter, I got nothing. I searched noose in my inbox. We've gotten so many emails about nooses that I can't narrow it down to him now. That's great too. I can't even narrow down who sent this to us because so many people have sent us emails about nooses.
We need Bambee.
Yes. All right. There was a gentleman. You gotta love this audience, though. Gentleman's like, I don't know, man. I think that's not necessarily a technically sound noose y'all have there, and I've got an authentic one we could really hang people from. Can I send it to you? And I said, by all means.
Yeah.
Then I wasn't sure how Aaron was going to take it when I brought it in yesterday.
No,
you were like, you grabbed it right away and said, we need to put that thing on the desk.
That's a nice noose.
That's a nice noose you got there. What did you call Aaron? A noose? What did you call him yesterday? Something about a noose. It was a term you had for a noose expert or
aficionado.
A noose aficionado, noose quality control.
I've been in a haze for 72 hours. I can't remember what I said.
This is a very unique program and a very unique audience. Anyway, speaking of audience, a gentleman we've had on the show before is Pastor Paul Blair, former NFL football player turned pastor, has a network of pastors across the country that he calls the Black Robed Regiment. He's based in Edmond, Oklahoma, not far from where we filmed Nefarious, in fact. And he got a chance. I got a note from him this morning. He says, wow, what a day. Today I turned 60. Last night, my wife of 33 years and I, we celebrated. We went out to see Jesus Revolution at the theaters, and then we came home and watched Nefarious. That's a twin bill right there. Yeah. What a great night. And I've attached my review for your amazing movie. And I want to share some of this with you because tomorrow we are going to full bore launch. Now we're emptying the tank of our marketing budget beginning tomorrow on Nefarious, leading up to the April 14th release. And you are going to see the second trailer for Nefarious. And while it will hint more at the worldview, it again will make it very obvious to the audience that you are in the presence of something supernatural and unnatural. Fair?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that there is going to be a large group of you that are going to be like, I don't know, man. I trust you guys. Yeah, I do kind of find it interesting. Like, we have done the study of this book 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it for the 3rd time on the show. And no one's ever emailed and said, I can't listen to this study of the book.
Right.
Okay, because it's just it hits too close to home. But that's the power, though, of the visual medium, right? Seeing it visually portrayed does bring it closer to home. That's what Jesus says when the eyes are the window to the soul. And that's why the enemy took over Hollywood, guys. He knew this too. That's why he took it over. He knew. That's why we tend to excel more as conservatives in the written word area or the spoken word area without the visual stimulation, but the intellectual, because without the visual stimulation, we are intellectually piqued and stimulated first. So when we are just reading you the words of nefarious and speaking about them, or you're reading them yourself, you understand that absolutely the worldview that he is depicting here, this character I created is depicting, is a real demonic worldview, but the full onslaught of your senses are not assaulted because your logic centers are immediately engaged because we're not visually confronting you, right?
And that's the way you like it.
Yes. But in this forum, you are visually confronted. And this is why we have more freedom. And we're losing that now, by the way. Take it from someone who's written a few books recently. We're losing that too. But this is why we have more freedom to write words like nefarious than make movies like nefarious. Because there is far more censorship of getting a movie like this made than a book like this written and published, okay? Because the enemy knows the power of the visual presentation. But when I have been telling you for the last few months leading up to this moment now, that our goal was to use the enemy's game plan against him. This is what they have done against us in Hollywood for 80 years, is they have produced things on a routine basis that the logic centers of our brain knew were anathema to what we believed, but those other centers of the brain that are visually stimulated allowed it in anyway because of the stimulation. We're trying to reverse that premise in order to now get our worldview into them. But don't just take my word for it. Listen to what Paul Blair, pastor in Edmond, Oklahoma, head of the Black Road Regiment, listen to what he wrote me this morning. I grabbed a pen and pad to jot down my comments as I was watching Nefarious, meaning that so many things come to mind as you watch this movie. I need to write them down. Okay? That is one of the most common reactions I get when people see the film for the first time. I need to see this again because it's clear there were things I missed. Yes, there's a lot going on here. It's very layered. He writes, gripping, captivating. Notice the first thing. Now, if you guys have ever heard Paul on our show, I think there's a few of you in our audience even know him. This is a man's man, okay? Played in the NFL guys. And in the era when you could hurt people for money. Not the era we live in now, where if you hurt someone, you get fined money, okay? The John Facenda era, all right? Where it was, I ain't got time to bleed. That was the era he played, all right? But listen to what he started with here in the review that he wrote me. Hollywood quality cinematography. See what? He's talking about the quality of the craftsmanship. Hollywood quality cinematography, lighting, and editing. Professional level writing. It was like The Exorcist had a baby with the screw tape letters. And the close-ups of Nefarious reminded me of Heath Ledger's Joker. Well done. He just compared our film to the most successful horror film in the entire history of motion picture cinema, The Exorcist. And one of like the 25 most successful films of any genre ever. And what is considered one of the greatest acting performances in the history of American cinema, Heath Ledger in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight. I love the fact that he started with the craftsmanship because that's what this is. The reason we haven't done now we've gotten much better the last few years, and frankly, the guys that I'm working with on this film are one of the reasons why. And it's kind of funny. You're now watching the other side struggle to make good entertainment. Because now they're the zealots. They're the ones. You know what was? You want to know what my favorite scene in Jesus Revolution was? I love Jesus Revolution. I would highly recommend it. My favorite scene is when they dropped the LSD from the crop duster and you watch Greg Laurie take drugs. Why? Because later in that film, when you see what Christ does in Greg Laurie's life, it's going to mean, that ain't going to be a cheesy conversion scene now, is it?
Right.
You now know the stakes that we're playing for here. We're showing you how serious this transaction is. So now it's not like, let's make it really nice. And then at the end, when it comes to, you're like, why did I ever come to Jesus if everything was already so nice? I had a minor emotional difficulty. No, the guy doesn't know his dad. His mom's a drunk. He has no aim, no purpose. And he's literally at a free love, sleep with whoever you want concert, taking substances that fall from the sky that he doesn't even know what they are. You're in a pretty broken place, probably, right? So later, when you see the great physician heal that, it means something. You don't cringe when you watch Greg get converted. You cheer. Because you did like the spiritual version of the Rocky montage training montage. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You saw it. You saw Rocky fail. You saw him fall. You saw him take a punch. You saw him lose. So that later, when you see him win, it matters now, doesn't it?
Yes.
See, they're the ones that won't tell these stories now on the other side. They're the ones like, okay, we got to get the trans guy, the gay guy, and this person's got to hate his mom. You know what I mean? They're checking boxes and they're struggling to tell good stories now. There is an opening for us to fill that void. If we let go of the idea that we have to check boxes to make everybody feel good and just tell the best story that we can, because within us is the greatest story ever told, and just let it come out on its own. So I love the fact that Paul started with the craftsmanship of the film and not its worldview. It has to be a good film, not a good worldview, a good film. How many emails have I gotten over the years from people telling me I get more Bible on your show than I do at my church? We don't sit around here plotting out how we're going to do that, guys. We've never done that. Even when we actually did an actual Bible study, the one time we did it on Theology Thursday, we didn't actually sit down amongst the three of us and break down how we were going to do it. We just did the best show we could do, and it just happened to be about that subject matter. See my point?
Yeah.
That's a very important distinction. Wow, the most powerful condemnation of the brutal, selfish truth of abortion that I've ever seen. That's the closest thing I'm going to tell you about a spoiler. I'm not going to give you anything else. Much of the rest of what he gets into about the worldview of the film would be a spoiler. I won't do that, but I wanted you to hear that. On another part of the spirit of the age that we destroy, he says, unexpected sucker punch revealing the hypocrisy.
That I know he's talking about my favorite scene in the movie. He's got to be.
Yes. On another one, he says, brilliant way of presenting this information. I don't want to say too much more about what he sent me because it would give you spoilers, and I don't want to do this. Because I want you to, the movie will impact you when you see it yourself. Overall, he says, I thought the movie was outstanding. And if the goal was to leave the viewer stunned and slightly confused, then you succeeded. As a preacher, I would end it exactly as you did. When you see the movie, you'll know what that means. Meaning we didn't wrap it up for you nicely. We don't need to wrap it up for you. It's not the sick, or it's not the healthy that need a doctor. It's the sick. Why do the people that have access to the ultimate answers of the universe feel like we have to have everything wrapped up for us? You already know how it ends. It's those that don't. They're the ones that need to be jarred into contemplating, it will end. It will end. Your life will end. Do you have the right answers when it does? And this film will beg that conversation, you bet. Again, there's a few other things that Pastor Paul puts in here I don't want to mention because they would spoil the film. But that's from a guy that has been on the front lines, man, for decades. And now, late in his ministry, he's trying to equip other ministers to get on the front lines and the next generation. And that's his review. So, this is the movie we have said for years, why can't our people make movies like this? We did it. We made the movie you said you wanted. Now we need you to do your part, frankly. Now we need you to take your neighbors and your family members to see this. And we are presenting, wait till you see the new trailer tomorrow. Oh boy. Wow. We're making it easy for you, guys. the level of marketing, the level of production here, we're making it real easy for you. And now you guys need to trust that we did the thing. We did what you wanted us to do. And I wanted to thank Pastor Ball for that outstanding review. And there's a lot more in here. Again, I don't want to share because it'll spoil the movie. But I can't wait. We're going to have our first test screening in Troy, Michigan on Saturday. I'm going to be there. My wife and I will both be there. I will do a live recorded Q&A after the movie. It'll be the first time, what I mean by general public, even though a lot of the people there will be activists and ministry leaders we invited, but it'll be the first time we have opened it up beyond a small or select group of people. This will be the largest crowd to have ever seen the film yet. I mean, it's going to be well over 200 people are going to see this movie on Saturday. So I can't wait to sit in that theater and get that reaction. I can't wait. You guys have any thoughts before we get out of here?
The availability of this movie to me is a go to Nineveh moment for the church. You have all your ideas, Jonah. You have all your plans. Look where they've gotten you. Trust in the ways of the Lord. Trust that his ways are better than your ways. I still, the genre, whatever, horror, suspense, whatever you want to call it, my wife, and seeing her testimony, and after we watched it at your place, and what she told you, she said, I thought my biggest challenge would be needing to get up and go out because I was so uncomfortable. She said my biggest challenge was not talking and asking you guys questions during the movie because it was so interesting.
It's so provoking.
And I know my wife is anybody else. And she doesn't want to go to this genre of movie broadly, but because it's turning on your head. This is a deeply Christian movie. It worked on her in a way that she said was undeniable, and that should be where you let your heart go too. All right, we're going to let our hearts go to you when we come back and buy, sell, or hold. One of our most fun times of the week. Looking forward to it. And then the prophet of woe and lamentation as we get going with hour 2 next. All right, we are back. Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Aaron McIntyre, Todders, and all of you. And you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. Email the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also find me at Real Steve Deace on Truth Social, at Real Steve Deace there. Got to have the real. Apparently there's other Steve Deaces there. They won't let me have those names, so we had to go with at Real Steve Deace. So some of you are like, I find you on Truth Social all the time. You've never posted there. That's not my account. So someone else has that. And then they wouldn't give me my name. So all the best people. It is. I do take it. My ego is very reinforced by the fact I have sycophants galore who hate my guts. So I like it. All right. So at Real Steve Deace on Truth Social is where you can find us as well. Don't forget as well, if you love the podcast version of the show, thank you so much. You're a big part of our audience, maybe the biggest part. So if you've yet to do this, please hit subscribe or follow. Leave us a 5-star review. Thank you to all of you that have done those things for us already. This portion of the show brought to you by our friends over at Eden Pure. You maybe heard me read another note yesterday from another satisfied customer with the Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier for whole home protection. They have brought back the buy one or buy however many you get, or you want, you get that many for free. You want one, you get another one for free. You want 2, you get 2 for free. You want 3, you get 3 for free. They brought that back right now. Now is the time to order Eden Pure's Thunderstorm Air Purifier. Find out why they have hundreds of thousands of units sold, countless 5-star reviews, filterless. You'll never have to repair the filters, either as an expense or with your time. All right, just go to EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code Steve. Free shipping too.
Free shipping too. EdenPureDeals.com. Discount code Steve. And as many as you choose to buy is as many as you'll also get in addition to that for free. EdenPureDeals.com. Discount code Steve. Shipping is free. Let's get to buy, sell, or hold. Aaron, with a little help, if not a lot, from his friends, you in the audience, Todd, they have prepared for you and I a series of things, topics and suggestions and lists they want you and I to comment on. We will either buy it, we will sell it. If, however, at any point in time, did you guys see Anderson Cooper say that he thinks last night that he thought Tucker Carlson would have wet his pants if he was out there outside while January 6th was going on?
One of the most ridiculous flexes I've ever heard.
A guy who literally orders off the bottoms menu has thoughts on masculinity.
There it is. Nice.
Yeah. The rear admiral of the Charge and the Light and Loafers Brigade has thoughts on courage. Okay. So in honor of Anderson Cooper, if you use the hold at all, you have to find out what wets Anderson Cooper's pants.
That will not be happening.
That might be the most difficult and disgusting challenge that we have offered on a hold yet on this show. It's up there for sure. For sure.
You are about to see that I can buy or sell anything. Anything.
All right. We'll get through as many of these as we can. Whatever we can't get through will be in today's overtime for Blaze TV subscribers. BlazeTV.com/Deace. Go there now to subscribe so you don't miss it and get your Blaze subscription for just $10 a month. And make sure you don't ever get big teched. No censorship there and lots of exclusive content as well. BlazeTV.com/Deace.
We will begin with Live Free or Die, who says Dark Side's 50th anniversary. Buy, sell, or hold. Top 5 list of Pink Floyd song titles that best describe what progressivism has wrought on America. Number 5, Dogs of War.
I like it.
Number 4, Us and Them.
That's definitely true, for sure.
Number 3, Sheep.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
2, Comfortably Numb.
I only hesitate. First of all, it's one of the greatest songs ever. It is their greatest song in my view. But I think we have done a lot of this comprehensively across the American pantheon of worldviews, Todd. I don't think that has uniquely, but I'll buy.
And number 1, Welcome to the Machine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wholesale buy in this list, Todd?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're saying basically like it's the GOP, etc., is guilty. Is that what you're saying? Beyond
I'm saying literally everything in our culture, including much of what gets preached from our pulpits, creates Comfortably Numb. Yes,
agreed. I do
think the other songs have uniquely, and I wouldn't even call it progressivism anymore at this point. I mean, I wouldn't. I have my issues with progressivism. Naomi Wolf probably views herself as a progressive. Russell Brand probably views himself as a progressive. You know what I'm saying? To me, at this point, you're just dealing with a demonic spirit of the age, and I think that absolutely creates everything on that list. But I think everything in our culture makes us comfortably numb. That's the one I don't think is just unique to the spirit of the age.
People like Naomi Wolf are dealing with the term progressive like we are dealing with the term conservative. Like what?
Yes.
What the hell is it?
Yes. Yeah. Fair.
Next up, we go to Alex Kochman, who says liberalism itself was the original controlled opposition. It was always demonic chaos or traditional conservatism or Christian revival with no in-between. Liberalism was a foil. It always claimed to offer the fruit of God's kingdom without the root, but never could.
That's a really smart take, Alex. It's a really smart take. And can I go back to the first proposition very quickly? I'll throw another Pink Floyd song title in. That's why I go back to what I said last hour. Everything that he put in that very first proposition is why when I look at America, I say, I wish you were here. I just view myself as a person who lives now here, you know, and the country that I belong to is largely all but gone or is a vapor on the wind. But back to this one. I think that is a very smart take. Because the old argument, the old culture war worldview argument was, how much autonomy do I have? That's why we were looked at as the prudes. We were looked at as the funny daddies. We were looked at as the ones restricting people. Because the old argument was, can I do whatever I want, provided it doesn't hurt a child or adult? That was the liberal argument, right? Okay, that I have full-fledged, I can get my full-fledged Maquis de Sade on if I want, provided the people that are consenting to being decided. Okay? And we came along and said, well, actually, your conscience is governed in whose image you were made. You are not your own. Okay? You're not an accident. You were made with a purpose. There's a reason you're here. And the manufacturer always gets dibs, right? That was the culture war argument, right? It was. For essentially the boomer era post counterculture argument. The root of it, of the whole culture war in America, was that question. What's happened now is we went from arguing what the extent of your agency and autonomy was to whether you have any agency or autonomy at all. And this is what has us arguing alongside people like Bill Maher and Russell Brand that we were arguing against when we first got into this business, because the argument was, what restricts our conscience? Maher would say, if I'm not hurting another person, nothing, right? We would say, that's not true, okay? Well, now we're arguing, do I have any conscience at all? Am I an individual at all? And and from a Christian worldview, our friend Oran McIntyre, our latest addition here to BlazeTV, likes to point out that basically every argument the 1980s era religious right ever made was correct and turned out to be correct. That's what I think. Is it Alex, Aaron? Is that who it is? Okay.
Yeah, Alex Cookman.
So this is what I think Alex is touching on. All the slippery slope arguments we said, hey, if we go down the road of unfettered conscience, it's not going to be freeing. There'll be carnage, and then a new authority will step in and say, well, because it's gone too far, we're now in control. That's the Orwellian model, right? Okay? At least with God, you get grace and justice. You get empathy or mercy and accountability. With this, there's no empathy anymore. There's no mercy anymore. There's no grace anymore. And you're never good enough. It's never enough. Never. And if that's what you're saying, Alex, that this was a demonic ruse and canard all along to get us to this stage of devolution, I completely agree. So I'll buy.
I think this is fascinating. I'd want to talk in depth about exactly what he means by liberal, because you definitely have to, if you're like, you have to go way, way, way beyond being just a child of the 80s like Steve and I are, and we have a certain mindset about what that means. But go back to like Renaissance thinking, a liberal mindset, a more expansive mindset of all things under the earth, under God. Now, if it's always under God, you're anchored. You still may make mistakes, but like when philosophy, from the empiricists to the rationalists, it's a fascinating journey. When you go from Descartes, I think, therefore I am,
to I emote, therefore I am.
You have reason showing it was under God. He was a mathematician. He was a Christian. He was thinking through things, and while he through the gift of reason and starting to use that in a way, and not just blindly accepting things on faith, but actually doing what is reason is a gift God gave us. Descartes and others very quickly came to the solution that there are many things using our reason we can't remotely become serious about, but the things of God are some of the things we can be the most. And then very quickly, and this used to depress me, you get to Hume in about 100-ish years' time, and Hume's just like, with reason, you can hardly be certain. He's even certain of less. That used to depress me. And quickly after Hume is often used as, well, that's why we should God is farcical. It should have gone in the opposite direction. If reason can hardly help you be certain of anything, why aren't you going with God? We made the exact opposite choice using philosophy, and that's the crucial distinction about with liberalism. If liberalism is an expansive mind, a scientific mind, a weigh, test, measure mind under God, genuinely seeking for truth wherever it leads, that's a mode of liberalism that I think is healthy. As soon as it convinces you that you're too smart by half, that reason, in all of its unknowing, and you just follow it through time, reason keeps telling you, we can hardly really know anything.
Mm-hmm.
Let me rephrase. We can hardly know anything within the spheres that reason was never designed to go. And even more than that, those philosophers are telling you we can't be sure of our own existence. Does that remind you of anything right now? What's a woman? We've been on this road for a very, very long time. And the people who got it right were guys like named Isaac Newton. Pretty smart guy, right? Man of faith. A lot of things, modern day medicine. Penicillin, Gregor Mendel. So we need to get much better at this thing called reason. Liberalism it's just meant to be a method. It's not meant to be a religion. People have turned it into a cult.
Mm-hmm. That's really well said.
Both of you. Next. Steven Skinner says, the Deace crew should give up these items for Lent. Steve, NCAA basketball and March Madness. Todd, vinegar and Bonner private wines. Aaron, barbecue. And Anna, TikTok videos. For the love of God, make the pain stop.
Agree on Anastasia. I'll buy that one.
I have given up Bonner private wine before for Lent.
Oh, okay. That answers that. I haven't really been barbecuing that much, so yeah, not a huge deal. Jim says this year's college basketball national champion won't be ranked in the top 20 in offense and defense on Ken Pomeroy.
I'll sell. So for those of you that don't know, Ken Pomeroy is a college basketball analytics site. Debuted in 2002. Since its debut, every team that won the NCAA tournament except one was in the top 25 of both its offensive and defensive efficiency ratings. The only team that didn't do it, you guys remember the year that UConn, not the year that they had to win the Big East to get in and then win the tournament, but the Shabazz Napier year that Kevin Ollie was the coach. That's the one time that a team that was not top 25 in both offensive and defensive efficiency in Ken Pomeroy's ratings won the tournament. So since that's happened one time in 23 years, just on the trend alone, I will sell.
I'll buy.
Next, we will go to Brian Johnson, who says Top Gun Maverick should win the Oscar for Best Picture.
I'd be totally fine with it. Totally fine with it. It's not the best movie that I saw, but it's among the 5 best movies I saw last year, so I'd be totally fine with it. I'll buy.
I have not seen so many movies, but just on my memory of Steve's list alone and what I've seen people talk about elsewhere about this, the World War I movie, was it one? I haven't seen it yet.
All Quiet on the Western Front is the best movie that I saw last year, and frankly, I didn't think there was even a close competitor.
I mean, I'm not denigrating, but I think there's probably more Oscar-level movies.
But here, let me say that we need to be a country where Top Gun Maverick can win Best Picture.
I'm not
again.
talking that. Absolutely.
Because we can make All Quiet on the Western Front in any era. I think what made people so excited about Maverick is those are the movies they used to make for us. They don't make those movies for us
and
anymore.
That's really why I'm actually not just... Tom Cruise is just like bulletproof. We need other people to make great movies again. And we need to want to... I genuinely miss, and we're going back a long time now, but I genuinely miss when the Oscars mattered, that I cared. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, because of everything you just talked about, you know this. The challenge of making a movie, you have an idea, carrying that to execution, making it quality. Mm-hmm. I mean, the idea... Great. A lot of people have great ideas. Can you execute that in that form? Mm-hmm. It's just trash out there. And we need this level of quality to help save our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we go to Joe Stetz, who says the winning run in the 2023 World Series will score on a pitch timer violation.
Gosh. Now you're just trying to trigger Todd. Did it work?
I'm just hearing all kinds of anecdotal evidence that the game is absolutely flying by now.
I mean, aren't we seeing spring training games or like college basketball games now? They're like 2 hours.
Somebody yesterday recorded a strikeout in like, I think it said 20 seconds.
All right. Don't hate me. Okay. I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that bad?
Oh, no.
I'm asking. I'm just asking.
It's not bad.
I've heard that people are actually in the stadium are counting down the pitch clock or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
why
a
is it
shot
bad?
clock in basketball.
I'm asking, why is it bad? We didn't, Dean Smith figured out how to run the four corners. We had to put the shot clock in college basketball, literally just because of Dean Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is the sport better to watch with a shot clock than without? Yeah, it is. So why is it bad?
I'm not complaining about it.
I'm with you on all the robot umpires and all that other stuff. I'm with you on all that other stuff, okay?
Yeah.
But if we can do some things to say you don't have to scratch your sack this many times, okay? Because people have phones and they're distracted. We have to be reasonable about the culture and time in which we live and keep the pace moving here.
No,
why is that bad?
It's not. I'm not against it.
Okay.
I think it just happened a couple of weeks ago where right at the end of a game the last strike was on one of these. And I said, it's this level, the fact that this level of babysitting is required is my problem with sports writ large. You got, in baseball in particular, baseball is famous for its unwritten rules. Mm-hmm. Your unwritten rules got us here, guys. Your unwritten rules are supposed to be you guys governing the game because they're deeply embedded principles of how things are done. Mm-hmm. The way things are done is you guys... just grinding this game to a halt. And it's the same thing now. The unwritten rules of football are like, well, the money, there's just too much money. We got to follow the money, whatever the money said. There's all kind. This is every sport is going to leave this level of the old school nun coming into your kindergarten class and wrapping your neck. It's insane that an umpire has got to do this to grown men. Yep. Get in there and pitch. Get in there and hit. But it does because we've ruined all the nice things.
That's a great point. I like that point a lot.
Next, we go to Jim McNell.
You're a lot better at this, dude, when you're not sick.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're hammering it today. You're nailing it. Go ahead, Aaron. I'm sorry.
Jim Bicknell says Chip Roy is the best fighter for freedom in Washington, House or Senate.
Bye.
I mean, I'm
volume of
biased.
times when he's just burning the place down.
Yeah, I'm biased, man. So everybody just needs to know he's one of my best buddies. So I'm gonna buy.
You bet.
I love him. Yep.
We have a top 10 list. This comes from Tiny Johnny. 10 ways in which drag queens and congressmen are similar. After we just praised Chip Roy.
Just even saying that. No. Okay.
Number 10, they don't care about the future of children or harming them.
Oh, my goodness.
Number 9.
Can we stop the list right there, maybe?
Number 9, they wear clothing to present a false image.
Oh, my.
Of who they really are.
This is really hurting now. We're only 2 into this.
Number 8, they have no shame.
Bye.
Oh, my.
Number 7, they like to put their shows on in public.
Oh.
Number 6, they groom people in such a way as to make them believe they have good intentions.
This
Check
hurts.
out this one. You'll like this one. Number 5, they both claim Lindsey Graham as a mutual friend.
Bye.
Number 4, they hate God.
Bye.
Number 3, they are only here to pleasure themselves.
Bye.
Number 2, they hate it when people try to stop them.
Bye.
Number 1, they aren't real men.
Bye.
Oh, gosh, is that the most painful list in the history of this entire segment since we started doing
Tiny
it?
Johnny. Mic drop.
Well
that was hard to hear, man. Oh gosh, and that's why I got to buy the whole thing. That one was hard.
Sean Griffiths says this: our country is so divided that 25% of the country would be totally cool with another 25% being rounded up for whatever crisis or issue they're convinced of. All the while, at least 50% or the last 50% would stand by and watch.
I agree. I agree with this.
I buy it. Certainly on the principle.
Yeah, we could debate the ratios, but if you give me a choice between, if you want to poison yourself with the jab, I wouldn't get in your way. But we're never presented that option.
Right.
So the option is I get to poison you with it. Well, in that case, then I'm all for rounding you up. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you are willing to leave me alone, then I'm willing to wait until you have mRNA'd your way into a for sale sign in your yard because your casket's coming through the front door. Okay?
Yeah.
But we're not doing that anymore.
No.
That was America.
Yeah.
That was the country.
Yeah.
Okay? That country doesn't exist anymore. This country does.
Yeah. You said it was the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
All right.
I plan on coming out alive.
If it's the Hunger Games, I like it better when I win than when you do. Because only one of us is coming out here. There's only one winner, right? So if that's what it is, okay, if that's what it is, and I want the record to show how many shows did I do 2015, 2016, 2017, and the 2018. Don't make this a zero-sum game. Cannot become a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
It can't get that. If it gets to zero-sum game, we're toast. We're done. Right? How many times did I just plead, beg, pray, whatever we could do to not get to this? And it is, I can't.
And then Julie Swetnick.
Yes, I can't ignore the reality in front of me because then I become the problem in and of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is not what I want by any stretch of the imagination. But I don't have control over it, and it is where it is. So if the game now is I round you up before you round me up, then I prefer rounding you up. So I'd be in the 25% of rounding you up. Yeah. I mean, I'd much rather be in the leave me the hell alone and I'll leave you alone. But that country doesn't exist anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
Tyler Schlosser says the vaccine issue is so bad and has so many people pissed, especially since Trump will not apologize and admit any wrongdoing, that if he wins out and faced Kennedy, RFK Jr. in a general, many patriots would actually vote for Kennedy over Trump because of that one issue.
I think it would be, I think, folks, whatever you think they were willing to do to stop Trump, what they would be willing to do to stop RFK Jr. from becoming the Democratic nominee, that's at least the baseline. I mean, hell, they killed his brothers. I mean, I think what they would be willing, especially because of the credibility he has built over the last few years, especially. All right? Because I don't know if this is true, but the fact you could even suggest this without getting laughed off of BlazeTV, that we're going to even ponder it, demonstrates the level of credibility comprehensively that guy's built over the last few years. It should be, wait a minute, he's going to run on like all of our progressive policies, but because he's actually honest and not a crook, some of you would actually vote for him. We should nominate that guy. That's the way it should work, right? That's the way it should work, correct? Mm-hmm. That's not the way that it works. Because he actually believes in those policies and therefore is going to be honest and treat people well and respect them. They're not for that. They're for power. And we have power over you. Because he's actually pro-choice on multiple different fronts.
Yeah.
And not pro-force. If whatever you think they were willing to do, and we saw them do a lot. I mean, they killed his brothers. They would do, I can't even, hashtag RFK Jr. didn't kill himself. My goodness. I think they'd rather have Trump president again than RFK Jr. as the Democrat nominee. I think dude, that's a buy-seller hold that I think would at least be debated. Well, average progressive, average left-wing activist would prefer RFK Jr. as nominee or Donald Trump as president of the United States. Now, that's a buy-seller hold that'll make your friggin' head explode.
This into an entirely different question, which I understand. If it gets to this point, though, this is my quibble with Shannon Joy in the past. More people's minds have been opened on this. Not enough. There's no way these patriots you're talking about are ultimately at the end with a broad spectrum of issues that they're choosing Kennedy. Even if they're pissed about the vaccine, no, they're not choosing Kennedy over Trump.
Next, we go to When Howitzers Fly, Mount Rushmore of DeSantis gubernatorial actions to date, firing back at Disney, vaccine grand jury probe, making smut illegal in school libraries, and banning critical racist theory in Florida public schools.
Do you know what all those things have in common? They're preceded by action verbs.
Wait. He persuaded a bunch of people, though, right?
No,
like he went to all the teachers and persuaded them.
No, he just exercised power.
Oh, okay.
Just exercised power.
Okay.
I find that fascinating. Exercised power in every single one of those instances, brought power to bear against forces of darkness, against every single one of them. I've never seen anything like that. I have never seen anything like that. Now, in fairness, until the last few years, I'm not sure we needed stuff like this. In fact, 5 years ago, I might have given a Mike Pence answer and said, are we sure we want to set these precedents? Because it ain't going to be any fun when the rabbits got the gun. Same conversation we were just having about the rounding up, right? Don't let it become a zero-sum game. Same thing. Are we sure we want to use this kind of power and set the precedent that we're for it now? Well, if the social compact is broken now, and you will come to me, you will attempt to take my kids, you will attempt to affirmatively and positively impose your will on me, then yes, if that's where we are, and I believe we are there, I think both of you do too, then now we're not asking for presidents now in the traditional sense of the term. You're asking for generals. And that's a battle plan. I mean, that's what was just laid out there. That's a battle plan. I'll take it. I'll buy.
I am going to sell only for this because I agree with everything you said. I would want on there because this is really important. It pertains to what we talked about yesterday when we were talking about how you communicate and tone conversations. Who we were talking about yesterday? Russell Brand, and who else were we talking about as the example that was more
Chris Rock.
Chris Rock, of course. Yeah. That was the overtime.
This Ron DeSantis is in that camp. The fact when then he does these things and then he's come out and questioned and he'll talk in detail as much as you want to, but if you step to him with that Heilman level of stupid, he smacks you around. This is really, really important. People need to be emboldened. They don't need to think like, oh, I just have to have all my ducks in a row here and be perfect and say just the right thing. No. You got to smack those people around, and he goes out there and he's good at it and he enjoys it. It's outstanding.
Examples must be made.
Yes.
Yes. The prophet of woe and lamentation will join us next. All right, back here on Blaze TV radio and podcast. Let's welcome him in, the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, the one and only Daniel Horowitz, my co-author for Rise of the Fourth Reich. Still out, by the way, if you want to get your copy. We love the reviews. Daniel has highlighted a lot of good reviews. A lot of you that have suggested, hey, I'm going to get another copy of this, send it to my legislator, congressman. We didn't just write it for you. We really wrote it for you to do that to them, trying to get them on notice. So thank you to everybody. We are just very honored to see the book made bestseller lists. All the comments we're getting now, you can leave your review at Amazon if you don't mind doing that. And so, Daniel, good to see you, brother. How you been?
Hey, great to be with you. And Steve, in about 24 to 30 months, this book, I'm telling you, is going to be number one on Amazon. It will be the number one book. We've learned it takes about 2 to 2.5 years in this very technologically advanced society for the truth to advance. That's the window. So right now we're talking about the Wuhan lab. Right? We talked about that about 2.5 years ago. So we'll get there. We're getting there.
Was that sarcasm? I can't tell anymore.
You can't tell what's a conspiracy and what's reality.
that is very true. So let's go to one of your favorite topics, just because I want to trigger you this morning: presidential politics. It does seem, and I said this on the show Monday, it does seem now that events have kind of organically occurred that this is fully underway now. I thought maybe it would wait a few more months until Governor DeSantis was finished with the Florida legislature. But you had Trump in his speech at CPAC that drew so much buzz. You've got the governor now is basically using the rollout of his number one best-selling book as kind of a soft open for a presidential campaign. He's all over the country. He's going to be here in central Iowa tomorrow. Actually, I'm going to meet him for the second time. It's been 10 years, but I'm going to meet him tomorrow while he's here. You have RFK Jr. going to New Hampshire talking about challenging Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination. So it does seem now that this thing is underway. Agree or disagree?
No, absolutely. This thing, for better for worse, is going to be the top issue, for another year and a half.
So what do you think? Not about the candidates, the environment. What's the environment we're in your view?
Yeah, because if you make me talk about one of the candidates, the 2 to 3 year window is not enough. We have to go to about an 8-year window for some people to catch up with reality, like now is 2015. Look, Steve, the reality of what we're going through right now is that we have a Fourth Reich, and then right now we have conventional presidential speeches so far among the candidates that have gotten in. Now, there haven't been too many candidates who have gotten in. It's Biden, presumably, Nikki Haley, and Trump himself. I guess you can count Vivek, maybe, so that's a fourth. I'm not really seeing the issues of our time being addressed. They're being addressed in a broad way, but I do think that were DeSantis and RFK to get in, which DeSantis obviously clearly will get in, I do believe that is going to change. And I think, to me, if nothing else, what that does is it elevates our issues. I think RFK getting in would be the greatest piece of presidential news in our lifetime. Because typically we're struggling to get in someone who will give our point of view in the Republican primary, and the Democrat primary is just crazy. Here, you might potentially have our positions reflected in both on a lot of the major issues that matter. And then obviously, I think, as you rightfully noted with Trump's CPAC speech, it's inevitably going to have to get Trump back on message, at least on all but the issue, but many other important issues, hopefully. So to me, whereas I was dreading the presidential election as a distraction, my hope is it could be a force multiplier to elevate the urgency of so many of our issues to be addressed.
We were just discussing this in Buy, Sell, or Hold, and I think you are uniquely qualified to tackle this one. Buy, Sell, or Hold. As much as it hates Trump, corporate media would rather have Donald Trump president again than RFK Jr., Democratic nominee.
Buy. You know, it was RFK Jr. that was close to convincing Trump to convene a national commission on vaccines to finally study them from the bottom up. What's the truth? What's false? What works? What doesn't? What's safe? What's not? And Bill Gates takes credit for convincing Trump out of that, and I haven't heard him deny that. So it's kind of ironic. I think this is a man who was trying to get Trump himself to shake up the system. Because, Steve, you know he was president, by the way. 2017 to January 2021, he was president, indeed. He did sound like a new candidate, but he was there for 4 years, and I think we all kind of remember it. But he would be such a threat to the system, because what he would do is take that entire Bernie movement, a lot of the people that really mean well and are just upset about corruption, and he would actually freaking mean it, unlike Bernie, who's the chief spokesman for Pfizer. He may as well be one. I think he is extremely dangerous, because I think there is an element of Democrat voters who could be activated towards this. This guy would be a disruptor of everything that matters. You know, we could talk about guns and abortion and taxes, but that's not really what threatens the bad guys. It's the issues RFK focuses on.
Are you saying, going back to Trump, are you saying that you found his speech that he gave at CPAC, which was a whale of a speech? I mean, that is one of the best speeches that's ever been given at CPAC. I mean, it might be the best speech that has been given there since Rush's address back in 2008 after or heading into that election cycle that gave us Obama, if you remember that one. I think that was 08, wasn't it? I think that was Rush in 08.
Indeed. So
are you saying that you found a lot of things in his speech that were at odds with how he actually governed as president?
You know, look, I mean, if he were a new candidate coming along, I think we would have all been jazzed by that speech. And I think he wants us to imagine him as a new candidate. But it's kind of peculiar. He said, "I will be your retribution." Well, I mean, you and I have been talking a lot about that retribution with the news sitting there next to you.
Yes.
And we really want that.
Right.
But then it's hard to wrap our arms around the fact that Steve, like, this wasn't in the waning few days. I mean, this was in the entire last year of his administration. Every last policy and personnel that we are trying to hold accountable for retribution was established by Trump. And not like, again,
like you're talking about people like Christopher Wray, people like this, or Anthony Fauci. People, you're talking about people like that.
Exactly. And it wasn't kind of a spur of the moment, a mistake, a week, 2 weeks. It was month after month, and we begged and begged and begged and begged. I mean, I'd encourage everyone to Google, President Trump political appointees. So you could see the list of political appointees, starting with the 16 or so cabinet positions, and then under that, deputy assistant secretaries. Objectively, count how many of them are MAGA. I mean, I think you could find Russ Vought, OMB director, who is more of one of the more low key ones in the media. You'll have Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary. And then I guess Peter Navarro, who has been thrown under the bus by a big part of the MAGA crowd now. So I'm not really sure I could find them, Steve. And I'm not talking about the leftovers from the previous administration or maybe even the new decisions, but the second round, Esper at DOD. I mean, these type of people, globalists, neocon, I mean, what are all the rhetorical names he used? I mean, dude, we did this. We did this on crime. We did this on illegal immigration. It's really hard to move beyond that. And I think without him bridging that divide and showing, hey, like, here's where I think it went wrong. Here's where we have better personnel and policy in place. But I don't see those visionaries around him. I mean, it's a bunch of young loose cannons plus Lindsey Graham. I just don't understand how he should be treated like any other candidate. I mean, we know everything there is to know about him. What is this retribution? Now, I think maybe with regard to election law and the 2020 election, because that's personal to him, I think that's somewhere where maybe he'll come out very strongly. A lot of us did try to push reforms to the Motor Voter Act when they had control of all three branches, and there wasn't much of an appetite for that before it became personal. I mean, I'm not sure, Steve. I really want to look at him in the most favorable sense, because I think you and I need as many candidates as we can, vying for our support, vying for our issues. And I don't want DeSantis to march in there. I want someone dragging him to the top of his game. We all want that. But I'm not understanding how I should just ignore everything, like the Koch brothers, right? He talks about the Kochs and the source. Brooke Rollins, who is the individual that got him bad on immigration, bad on crime, and got him to stand down on the riots. He talks a lot about that, BLM now, but I mean, he let that go on for a month. She's still the head of the America First think tank. That's his think tank. I'm just not sure what I'm supposed to think about that.
Let's talk about the biggest story of this week. The unveiling of the January 6th footage, some of those 14,000 hours that had been previously concealed from us. Kevin McCarthy, who has delivered on some things after getting a threat to his speakership. There's a lesson there. It's not about access. It's about leverage. Okay, I talked about that earlier. So he gives that footage to Tucker Carlson. He spent the last couple of nights unveiling it. Definitely some things that fundamentally go against the narrative on the January 6th front that we have been given comprehensively. Your thoughts overall on the impact of what's transpired here this week?
So, Steve, I'm trying to pull this up here to get the exact date, because what did I tell you? We're about 24 to 30 months behind everything. What was it? January 20th or so, January 20th, 2021, I did an episode that this was the Reichstag moment. Okay, in other words, that this was orchestrated. It was abundantly clear then. People like you and us learned nothing from those videos because each one of those aspects, the Ray Epps aspect, the fact that these people were let in and there was no problem, it almost looked like it was almost like a tour of the Capitol initially. The fact that the police brutality was orchestrated and spawned the violence that legitimately did occur, and the fact that the only people killed that day from direct action with the protests were protesters, not just Ashley Babbitt, but Roseanne Boyland and really two others as well from the gassing in that tunnel. We knew all of this. We knew it for 2 years. And this is the frustrating thing, that every single civilization change, it takes about 2 years to get the Republicans oriented. And even then, you have the McConnell wing still bad, and the better guys are kind of like trying to score points, but not directing this towards a policy outcome. So therefore, what do we need? All these things, all the prosecutions need to be defunded. That's clear. We need legislation that anyone who is politically persecuted could assert that if they're accused of a crime in D.C. and they get judged by a jury of their peers outside of Washington. I don't know why there's not a bill on that yet. We need the Republican governors to get together and say they're going to work with law enforcement to block FBI raids. They're pushing another 1,000 of these indictments, people that weren't even in the Capitol, coming down the pipeline. A federal judge just retired or announced his retirement because of that. He said, I'm not dealing with this anymore. It demonstrates also, moreover, how the judicial system is corrupt as hell, that it is the Fourth Reich. You cannot get justice. In fact, as these guys were beaten in prison, pre-trial, held indefinitely, all evidentiary standards, all legal norms were thrown out the window. And by the way, these videos, I could tell you, were shown. They were shown in the trial, in Richard Barnett's trial, and it didn't matter to the jury and it didn't matter to the judge. So just so you know, this stuff was shown. I think it does matter to the American people to see the visual of what we've been saying for so long. But our system is irremediably corrupt. And again, that's another reason why we need national divorce. You cannot be together with people like that. There's actually a story out of New York City that the people that were busting up buildings in New York City during the BLM riots, they just got a $21,500 payout per person because they have a lawsuit asserting that the police did not wear masks while they were arresting them. So they got a $21,500 payout. It's not the first time, by the way, they got to pay out the criminals were the victims, but this is the first one, I think, for masking. I mean, that's America right there, in one headline. So, Steve, I mean, it just demonstrates that it's not another, oh, look, but the Democrats lied. The Democrats did this. It's what the hell? We cannot live united as a nation. And policy-wise, where do we go from here?
I agree. I mean, the big thing after watching Tucker's report the other night, I thought to myself, how do you share a country with this? Good to see you, Daniel. As always, thank you, man.
Take care.
You bet. All right, gentlemen, got about 2 minutes left. Your final thoughts.
That was more back to normal. That was good old Daniel. There was some woe and lamentation there, and rightly so. I just happened to see something on Twitter where Donald Trump was saying we're going to be the best ballot harvesters ever. You know, if you can't beat them, join them, and we'll do it better and do it legally. Like, yeah, this is why Daniel says we can't have nice things. I love this when symmetries like that come up on this show, things we didn't plan. The stuff Daniel's talking about always have everything to do with the GOP incapable, unwilling, not understanding how to, being part of the problem. It's never understanding what time it is.
Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, what he's talking about and what he led the segment off. Rise of the Fourth Reich is going to be the most popular book on Amazon in about 2.5 years. That's funny, but that's the reality, guys. It really is. We have so many cowards who wear our jersey, who are afraid to question the narrative when it comes fresh out of the oven, or hell, for this case, in many cases. So cowardly. And I don't think I don't think any lessons were learned, at least with the people who matter. And when I say people who matter, people who have the ability, the power, the leverage, the platforms to push back. Too many people did not use that. And probably, as we heard yesterday, a lot of them didn't want to. Because they think all of you, even if you weren't at the Capitol that day, you're a bunch of hillbilly insurrectionists beneath contempt. We got to have more courage on our side.
John 3:17.